Hi, this is Gouri Kapur and today we have Samita Rathor on the show. I met her when I was 14 years old and the last I met her was about 19 years ago when we did her portfolio, after which she completely disappeared. So Samita, tell us, where did you go?
I traveled a lot. I was in Bangalore, I left Bangalore and I ended up living in Bombay, Delhi. Quite internal journey to get to know myself. I was doing a master's degree with some very traditional teachers, like my yoga teachers, Shri Acharya and Shri Acharya. I went to both Gaya, I stayed there for some time in silence. I went to Madurai, I went to Kerala. It's actually the usual path because, I think we're all supposed to go on an internal trip and we're so used to being like, on the outside. It kind of got me back to my center because otherwise we're like just always in the doing,
But why did you go off center?
It just happened like really spontaneously, so this is something that I just totally fell in love with, I want to get to know myself. I don't even know who I am.
So you're saying it was a natural transition to the path you've chosen right now?
Absolutely, completely, because it was such a shift and it happened so smoothly and so beautifully. And even like, things like change in my diet, change in my lifestyle, and change in my environment, and the things that I loved eating, I suddenly realized that I don't want to eat these things anymore. Like, not because it's good or bad, I don't know, it was like just really strange because I was like, no, I don't like this anymore. Like completely break in conditioning.
Because you were a really wild chick.
I was wild and my awareness I was lacking. So the awareness is always there. It's how much cleaning up that happens. Just started getting attracted to things that were more organic, things that were more wholesome, things that were more nurturing. When I was in Delhi, that's when I did my master's degree. And I didn't just do my master's degree, I got my yoga Acharya title then. That's like, 500 hours of studies where, we had to stay a very monastic life. But my studies actually happened one-on-one with my teacher. So I was very fortunate. So I studied one-on-one with my teacher since I was 19, 20. I went to Uttarakhand after that. I went to Uttarakhand to pursue my studies because I was studying yoga. And I wanted to study Vedanta. That's when I decided to live the life of a renunciate completely. Like I wanted to go on the other side, like just completely extreme to see what life was like to live as a renunciate. So I lived by the Ganges.
So what is the other side?
The other side is actually there's no side. I went there to realize there was no other side. It's just another lifestyle and it's people and it's just that the product is different and the goal is different. But it was just more focused because we had a schedule and we were studying scriptures and we were doing just a different kind of activity, like more of like an activity where you're studying about yourself, an internal trip, nothing external. But then, it's impossible actually to just be internal. There has to be external because we're eating and there are people and, whenever you're dealing with institutions or business, there's money involved, and wherever there's money involved, then there's bound to be a lot of other transactions happening. So yeah, in that sense, it was an internal trip, but then, we're living in the 21st century, so it was external also.
But now you're back to city. So how do you incorporate what you've learned and how do you teach? What do you really teach?
Actually, I missed on a little bit. After that, I pushed off to Australia. I was living in Australia. So my work primarily is one-on-one. So I use Eastern and Western methodologies in a very traditional manner where, we check the pulse of the person and then we see what's happening with the person, and they may come to you with different issues. It could be just, a personal problem, or it could be just to study. But my role as a facilitator is to gauge and detect what is not okay, because sometimes people say a lot of things, but it ends up into something else. So this whole knowledge helps us to bring that out, and you'll be surprised because people come and say, I want to study yoga, or I want to study this, and then you go into that and you realize like they're going through so much of problems, and you cannot study this till you sort yourself out. In the sense, it's your own internal trip that you need to go through, where you learn, you evolve, and you maybe create some kind of attenuation, with your own problems, or you move over and beyond them. It's like you've come to me and you want to study yoga, and I'm like, what's happening with you at home, or like, what's the deal? And then you tell me like, actually this happened and this happened, and I'm like, wait a second, you need to attend to that first, like you need to sort that out first before we get into this, because it's just very practical. Yoga is very practical. You have an issue, you sort it out. You're not going to do postures and sort it out. It's got to be sorted out in a very practical manner. So people think that yoga will give you peace, it will give you calm. Yeah, those are the symptoms, but you have to go through a lot to reach there, and that is not for the meek-minded. So my work basically involves working one-on-one with people, primarily practitioners, teachers. I teach, the philosophy to the ones who want to go deeper into their studies, the teachers, and even they have problems. Like we all have problems. So it's a beautiful process of it's not academic knowledge. It's like taking that knowledge and applying it in their personal space. At that moment, the application is very important to, make their life a bit easier, or to sort that issue out, or sort that problem out. Yeah.
On the contrary, I've been doing yoga the last 15 years, but I never had a problem want to go start yoga.
Yeah.
I think how yoga has helped me is that I've continued it, and it's helped me become stronger through every problem.
Right.
So I think that's the only difference I would say, because if people are coming to learn yoga because I have a problem, that's another aspect. I would say I think it's more like a way of life if you're into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
You're a champion. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's exactly the philosophy where we say one size does not fit all.
Right.
So different things work for different people, and of course there are people who come and say, okay, fine, like we want to study the scriptures, or we want to study the yogic philosophy, and there are people who I'm working with, and I'm teaching the Yoga Sutras and Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads. So it all depends on, it's not what you want to teach the person, it's what the person
wants to learn
at that
or
moment.
What needs,
yeah. So I don't know, like I just do whatever I'm meant to do. I end up learning so much from the people who come, because there's so many different people with different issues, and that's what's wonderful, because the strange thing is that when they come to you in that sense of a one-on-one working, it works. It works for everybody, Like you said, that I just did yoga because, I started doing yoga, and it's different, it's different for you. You have a matured mind, and you are approaching it in a certain kind of way, and someone else may have a very different state of mind.
So Samita, what do you think we can actually take from what you've learned and implement it in our so-called modern lives, as we say?
Yoga is not about the postures, it's not about the breathing, it's not about just the meditation, it's about connecting. At the end, it's just about connecting, and from here. You connect from here, the rest of it is just techniques, and that's why like a teacher plays a very important role. It's not about like, okay, I can do this posture, I can do this breathing. In fact, you're not even supposed to breathe in the cities because there's so much of pollution. The connect, the love, the trust, the faith, the shraddha, we call it. Beautiful word, if you can't replicate it in English, and without this shraddha, nothing happens. So like I'm here with you today because of shraddha. Let the flow happen, because life is flowing, The minute we block the flow, then we just stop living, and when it's flowing from here, then it just creates so much of purity, and when we are pure, then our actions are also non-violent. We don't go around screwing other people over, pardon my French, and Yeah, so I would say that, just open your heart and just, love and, have the shraddha, have the sincerity, know how to approach a teacher, know how to, do a bit of your research, before you go. Don't get drawn by just big groups and like just getting a certification, because yoga first has to happen for you. And I'm not talking yoga again, I don't want to use that word because it's so commonly used, people don't even know what it means, and a lot of them do, but what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, it's just basic, just be kind, just be compassionate, and just be sincere with the people that you're dealing with.